Jude Bellingham to Manchester United, as well as Ryan Gravenberch, are the news and rumours coming in today. We've got tier 1 and very reliable sources confirming that Manchester United are in for Jude Bellingham and Liverpool are not. And while Liverpool fans are crying, they got their 7-Up trophy. Remember, Manchester United, Man City and Real Madrid reportedly the favourites for Jude Bellingham. Reportedly from good sources, he's not interested in Chelsea or PSG and not a big fan of Manchester City, as he'd rather go to a historic club than an oil-rich club, which puts Manchester United and Real Madrid as the two favourites to sign Jude Bellingham. Now, however, this must be noted, this is very dependent on the new ownership situation, and very reliable Mike Keegan came out and spoke about Qatars, Sheikh Jassim having the funds to potentially do a Bellingham move and more. So we're going to dive into the news that United are in a good position to sign Jude Bellingham, that United want Bellingham, etc, what it will take for United to get Bellingham, that Bellingham wants United. But also Ryan Gravenberch has also been linked to Manchester United, very frustrated with his lack of game time at Bayern Munich. He was absolutely unbelievable last season, fantastic for Ajax, and look, Ten Hag, worked with him, and the boys we brought from Ajax, Anthony and especially Lisandro Martinez, I've been very impressed with, and maybe Gravenberch on a cheap deal, not going to complain with that either as well. So let's quickly dive into the Gravenberch news, and then I want to get into Bellingham, because when I say there's about 50 stories on Bellingham, and I think I've brought out the best 4 or 5 and kind of summarised them by like the journalist credibility, there's a lot that's come out on Bellingham today. But the best part is that Liverpool had made out that they were getting Bellingham, and all these Liverpool fans are convinced themselves they're getting Bellingham. If you type in Bellingham, Liverpool's like the first thing that comes up at the end. Liverpool waiting for Bellingham, for them not even to be in for him, can't even afford him. And rival City and United are the favourite Premier League clubs to get him. I do think he'll probably go Real Madrid unless we get Qatar though. And I do think with our priority being a striker, it will be more difficult if Real Madrid want him. But we know that United want Bellingham. And we know United was so desperate to get him 2 years ago that I don't see United letting Bellingham go to rivals like City. It was said on Gravenberch by a good source that Manchester United, Liverpool and Arsenal are interested in Ryan Gravenberch. He does not want to spend a second season on the bench. There was also a story that came out 2 days ago saying that, it depends on what Thomas Tuchel will do with Gravenberch. He wants to leave. He would obviously pick United out of all those sides interested in him because of Ten Hag, and he'd like to work with Ten Hag. But, again, if Tuchel starts playing Gravenberch and Tuchel decides to Gravenberch in his plans next year, potentially he stays. But it was also said because Konrad Laimer is going to Bayern Munich, etc, it's very likely that, Bayern Munich could sell him if he's not in Tuchel's plans, and that United, Arsenal and Liverpool, the clubs are interested in him. Maybe if we focus on Bellingham, he goes to Liverpool. Maybe with the takeover delaying it, Liverpool and Arsenal sweep him first and get him, because the takeover is delaying stuff at the moment, which we will get into. But it was confirmed, yep, United want Gravenberch, they are interested. But enough of Gravenberch, let's get into the news on Jude Bellingham. It was said Chelsea and PSG want Jude Bellingham, but he does not want to join them. Real Madrid and the 2 Manchester clubs are still in the race. We've got very reliable sources saying Real Madrid and the 2 Manchester clubs are in the race for Jude Bellingham. He doesn't want to go to Chelsea, he doesn't want to go to PSG, he doesn't want to go to a nothing league at PSG. And Chelsea not having a very good season. If you look at Chelsea right now, even though they're a more ambitious club than Manchester United and Todd Boehly's more ambitious than the Glazers, they're not getting top 4. They're an absolute mess. He doesn't want to go to Chelsea. And also, Chelsea is one of those clubs that just spend a lot of money. It was also said that Ten Hag's admiration for Jude Bellingham during the World Cup was so great that he told confidants if he could sign any player in the world, it would be Jude Bellingham. Now, Manchester United have been linked to Jude Bellingham since the summer. It's a very simple link to do. Good English player. United won him 2 years ago. Let's link United to Jude Bellingham. But there were stories coming out even before the World Cup, during the World Cup, that Ten Hag viewed Jude Bellingham as dream signing. If you could sign anyone in the world, despite striker being a number 1 priority, it would be Jude Bellingham. And I think if we get Qatar in, United will pursue Bellingham. I know that Ten Hag wants Bellingham. I know that Ten Hag is absolutely desperate for Jude Bellingham. And I do think if Ten Hag could sign anyone in the world, he probably would go for Jude Bellingham if he had the funds. But I think he knows we need a striker even more, so that Jude Bellingham is kind of unrealistic unless we sell a lot of players, which reportedly 13 players are set to be leaving United, and we get Qatari owners, which reportedly Qatar are the favourites to be new owners. But when will they come? When will the takeover be done? When will we have the money to start the transfer window? It was also said Manchester United sources say in 2020 they rolled out the red carpet for Jude Bellingham. Key staff at Carrington remained on site to glad hand the teenager who arrived merited presence of Ed Woodward and Matt Judge. And, Bellingham knows that United wanted him in 2020 when, not many people were aware of him. United really tried to get him in 2020. He knows that, United have wanted him for a while and United would be interested in him. So, believe it or not, with our good season under Ten Hag, we could attract Jude Bellingham to come, which sounds crazy considering where we were a year ago. But if the Glazers go and we get top 4 and we have Ten Hag at the helm, And with Manchester United, there's every reason for Bellingham to be attracted to United. Fabrizio Romano did speak about this news and said that Erik ten Hag is a huge fan of Jude Bellingham. Man City and Real Madrid are still in the running. It remains to be seen whether United will enter the race. It depends on the owners and strategy of the club because the price is a goal scorer. And I think Fabrizio Romano basically hitting the nail on the head. Ten Hag loves Bellingham. Of course United are in the race for Bellingham. Of course United are interested in Bellingham. Bellingham will probably be open in the move to United, but this very much depends on what happens with the new owners and what their strategy is, because they want a goal scorer. Harry Kane is the number 1 target, but that will be 100 million. I think that's essentially what Romano is saying, and I think that little 30-second summary there really just describes the position we're in with Bellingham. Now, we actually got some stories coming in from Mike Keegan that spoke about how the takeover could affect the Bellingham news, and a bit of an update on the takeover that I'm going to get into in just a sec. But I do want to get into this story quickly by Bild. Now, again, when it comes to Germany, Bild's a very reliable source. We've got another reliable German source saying that, Jude Bellingham isn't interested in these oil-rich clubs and that he is interested in United and Real Madrid. It was said by Bild, Jude Bellingham has ruled out joining Manchester City, PSG and Chelsea. The England midfielder wants to play for a prestigious club with values like passion, honour and reputation rather than money. Now, this is an interesting story, but I do think Bellingham is the type of player that wants to go to a club that's got more history than money. I don't think he'll rule out Man City though, just because I also think he'll think what's best for his career. I actually think Arsenal would be weirdly the best team for Jude Bellingham in terms of I think Arsenal need a player to go between Partey and Odegaard. I think Jude Bellingham is that guy, weirdly, but Arsenal can't afford him. And I do think maybe Man City is the smartest move in terms of career, sustainability, playing in a good system, all of that. United had the up and down seasons, but it said that, United and Real Madrid, and probably Barcelona, if they were in for him, would probably be the 3 most attractive clubs because they're the 3 biggest clubs in the world. And that's what he's attracted to more than just money. Now, I want to talk about what Mike Keegan said because he's kind of related the Jude Bellingham news to the takeover, and I think this is a really interesting article. Mike Keegan said Manchester United's move for Jude Bellingham, along with the rest of the summer transfer activity, is surrounded by uncertainty as the takeover saga continues. So again, he's saying we want Bellingham, we're interested in Bellingham, but we don't know because of the takeover. We know that the takeover is being delayed, that our transfer window could be put at risk. Although, Qatar are the favourites, and if we get Qatar and Ten Hag wants Bellingham, etc., etc., I think United are in a good place to get Bellingham if we have Qatari owners. But again, as Romano said, striker is the number 1 priority. While we want Bellingham, while we love Bellingham, while he might potentially leave Dortmund, he's going to cost over £100 million. I don't think he's worth that. I think he is overpriced. I've seen him have iffy games in the Bundesliga. I think he's one for the future. I think he's a fantastic player, but I don't think he's worth £100 million. But that's what you've got to pay to get him. And that United love them that much, that they would be willing to pay that much. 10 clubs them that much, so they would be willing to pay that much, but it's uncertain because we don't know what's going on in the takeover. He did continue up by saying Erik ten Hag wants to battle neighbours City and Real Madrid for Jude Bellingham. And as said, how determined United were to get Bellingham 2 years ago and it didn't happen. How, Ten Hag loves Bellingham and his reported dream target's Bellingham. I don't think United would sit around and let Bellingham go to rivals. I do think they'd whip out some money. I do think they dream of doing this deal. But as I've said, they can't do anything until the ownership situation is sorted. We don't have unreal amounts of money, especially if the Glazers stay, which means if we get a striker, we might not be able to afford it. And then he potentially goes to rivals. But we know that United love Bellingham. United were obsessed with the idea of signing Bellingham. There was actually a report from Samuel Lutkes, and I didn't really get that deep into Samuel Lutkes' just report because there's a lot of waffle. But Samuel Lutkes' report was basically that United love Bellingham. They view him as, the future of United, could rewrite the history of the club, could be that next long-term kind of Scholes-esque player. United see Bellingham as, as the Pogba that, Pogba never was, la-di-la-di-la-di-la-di-la. And United have this big vision that Bellingham's going to be the face of the club, this generational boy, etc., etc. And the Glazers probably like the idea of Bellingham because he is England's, I guess, next big star and maybe a marketing perspective, even though he's not an attacker. But that's what Samuel Lutkes' article really dived into. It was also said by Mike Keegan, it is likely that a substantial transfer kitty would be handed over to Ten Hag should Sheikh Jassim's bid be successful. Now, I've waited 9 minutes to get into this bit, but what Mike Keegan is saying is if Sheikh Jassim's bid is successful, they will have a nice amount of money. So if we digest all these stories on Bellingham and Gravenberch, because a lot has come out, Ten Hag wants a striker, but Ten Hag dreams of Bellingham. Bellingham is expensive, but United are interested in Bellingham and actually in one of the best positions to land Bellingham, but this is going to depend on the budget. So if United can hurry up, get Qatar in, finish in the top 4, sell the 13 players they aim to sell, Bellingham could happen. And I do think that Bellingham would be a fantastic signing. I think he's a little bit overpriced. I think that you know, as much as I don't want to bring up Frankie de Jong, because there was an actual article linking us to Frankie de Jong today, I do think Frankie de Jong is a perfect fit, which is annoying. And I do think there's some weaknesses in Bellingham's game, and I do think he will be overpriced. But I think he can be moulded in that player to go next to Casemiro. And if it's true that Erik ten Hag is looking at another centre-back to reportedly play out from the back, then I guess how the role he envisions Bellingham doing would be more of that kind of role that Eriksen does, rather than having someone that is actually playing the ball and like a volume passer, potentially in midfield. You know, it also depends on the way Ten Hag approaches it, because I don't think he's quite the profile we need next to Casemiro. But if Ten Hag brings in a certain goalkeeper, a certain centre-back, a certain right-back, then you don't need that exact profile in midfield. And look, Casemiro, Bruno, Bellingham midfield, even if Casemiro was the deep one and Bellingham and Bruno were actually 8s and we dropped the 10 and went to 4-3-3, it would be a magical midfield. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that transfer update. I was going to do a live stream today, but I'm just not feeling 100%. And we've got the Champions League football later, so I do apologise there's no live stream. I'm just crazy busy as well at the moment, which is why there's not as many live streams at the moment. But I will be back live tomorrow with Manchester United versus Sevilla watch along. So smash a like, smash a subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.